Yo, what is up guys, Hikari here, back again with another banger of a video for Wuthering Waves. Today we are going back to lab, and no, I'm not talking Professor Oak's lab. We're going back to Wuthering lab to talk about what I'm going to be doing for my builds, specifically for the characters that I want for my account. Now, of course, I am fully supportive of everyone building a character however they see fit, so please do not look at this video as a you need to build it this way otherwise you are playing incorrectly, because that's just not true. This is just the way that I want to play for me personally. But without further ado, let's just get right into the video. So this is Yinlin's build guide on the Wuthering lab page. There is a lot of things that we could talk about between her skills, her resonance, but like I said in the last video, because of the fact that day one patches exist and there is a lot of this that can be subject to change, I'm not going to specifically be talking about those. What I'm more so going to be talking about is the weapon that I want to use for Yinlin and the echoes that I want to use on Yinlin. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the weapon that I want to use for Yinlin. I would like to use the String Master. It is a 5-star rectifier weapon with 500 attack as the placeholder stat for what I'm sure is going to be a different number when the game actually comes out. So the attack stat doesn't matter so much because I imagine that's going to change, but one thing that I don't think is going to change is the fact that this weapon works around crit rate. Now yes, the crit rate of 36% can definitely change, but the fact that this weapon works around increasing your rate of getting a critical attack when you are attacking an enemy is something that I personally look for in a character when I'm looking at damage. I do enjoy doing critical base damage over non-critical base damage. Now, of course, because String Master is a 5-star weapon, it might not be a weapon that I get for a hot minute. It might be even something that I have to go into pity for. So, as a 4-star backup plan, I'm going to be running Augment as a 4-star rectifier that also still runs crit rate as its secondary stat. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about is what echo set that I'm going to be using for Yinlin. Now, the set that they have here up on the top is a decent set, I would say. The only things that I personally would change are probably the Geohide Saurian and the Traffic Illuminator. As much as I love Traffic Illuminator and he is my boy, he more than likely is not going to be able to do as much work as I want him to. So as a result, I'm more than likely going to be replacing those two with something on this list here in particular. Now, I know this list of echoes may seem small in the amount of choices that we have, but to be honest, if you look at the entire list of echoes on this website, you will notice that if you count all of them here, there are only about 59. I personally think that there are going to be a lot more echoes than this in Wuthering Waves just because of how big this game is going to be. So as a result, when Wuthering Waves finally does come out, I might actually change this entire list besides just the Traffic Illuminator and the Geohide Saurian because of what other echoes they might introduce, not only on day one, but even later on in the game with new patches and so on and so forth. In the Electro element, I am very happy that I already have one of the echoes that I'm more than likely going to continue running on Yinlin even beyond day one. Now, one thing very important that I want to point out is you may notice that a lot of these echoes have different symbols for elements on their icons. While yes, all of them have the electro damage elements at the top, that is not necessarily what you are always going to find if you have, let's say, something like the Geohide Saurian where you have 3 different element types. The reason why there are 3 different element types is because it's actually RNG which element type your echo is going to be when you either capture it or encounter it, I would imagine. Now, the reason why this is important is because of the Sonata effect that is procced when you have multiple Void Thunder element echoes. As you can see, when you run 2 echoes in your team that have the Void Thunder element, you have all of your electro damage increased by 10%. And then when you have 5 of them, when you release your heavy attack or resonance skill, electro damage dealt is increased by 15%, stacking up to 2 times, each lasting for 15 seconds. So, basically, long story short, is the more echoes you have that have the same element type, the better bonuses that you will get out of your character and what you're building them for, especially when that element type matches the type of the character you're using. So, for instance, since Yinlin is an Electro character, you want to use Void Thunder echoes with her so that way you can get the most out of her kit. So let's talk a little bit about the echoes that I'm going to be using on Yinlin, starting with Thundering Mephis. I believe this is supposed to be a boss echo for the simple fact that they have a higher cost than any other Echo I've seen at 4 as opposed to 3, 2, or 1. Now again, a lot of these numbers in terms of the percentages will change, but I don't imagine they're going to change how the entire animation will play out when it comes to the abilities. Transform into Thundering Memphis, engaging in a rapid assault of up to 6 strikes. The first 5 strikes deal 50% electro damage each, while the final strike inflicts 249% electro damage with an additional 41% electro damage from the thunder. After the final hit, increase the current character's electro damage by 12% and resonance liberation damage by 12% for 15 seconds with a cooldown of 25 seconds. Now I know that's a lot of numbers and a lot of percentages, and especially considering the fact that all these percentages can change on day 1, the main reason why I wanted to point this all out is because of the fact that I saw a lot of people asking why should we be going for rank 5 echoes over any other rank, and I'm just going to answer that real quickly by saying when we slide this rank 2 all the way to rank 5, it increases all of the percentages pretty dramatically. Now again, it's not going to be these exact percent increases, but long story short, the bigger the rank, the more damage you will be doing. And that's just one thing that will always be true. As for how much more, that is the question that remains to be answered, but you will always want to try to go for a rank 5 Echo. Next up, the Echo that I was able to get luckily through the web event that is going on for Wuthering Waves right now, the Flautist. An elite class cost 3 Echo that comes in either Lingering Tunes or Void Thunder for Element. Thankfully mine came in Void Thunder, so I'm already set. And as for Flautist's ability, transform into Flautist, continuously emitting electro lasers, dealing 33.3% electro damage for a total of 10 times, gain 1 concerto energy every time a hit lands, with a cooldown of 15 seconds. So honestly, I'm just gonna keep it real. The fact that there is a Echo that we can transform into that just shoots lasers sounds really cool. That is literally the only reason why I want this thing. If its damage is subpar, whatever, I want to shoot lasers. And the last Echo that I want to talk about that I know for certain I want to run on Yinlin is the Violet Feathered Heron, an elite class cost 3 Molten Riff / Void Thunder Echo. And the reason that I want to use the Violet Feathered Heron is because of its ability where you transform into Violet Feathered Heron and enter a parry stance. Counterattack when the parry stance is over, dealing 180% electro damage. If attacked during parry stance, you can counterattack in advance and additionally recover 5 concerto energy, cooldown 15 seconds. So I just think it's really cool that we have an Echo that just immediately will throw you into a stance that once that stance is over, it is almost like Bind from Pokemon, where you just take damage over and over and then you just deal it all back out at once. And I also really like the fact that you can choose to counterattack in advance and you aren't punished for doing that. Let's say if you try doing it and the enemy does way too much damage to you and you underestimated how much damage it was going to be. So rather than being stuck in the stance, you can just immediately counterattack and you are still gaining something out of it. You will recover concerto energy. Might not necessarily be 5, it could be a higher or lower number, but it's still something nice nonetheless. But that's basically going to be the video here. I want to thank everyone so much for watching. I will include a link in the description for Wuthering Lab if you want to check out the website and come up with some ideas for builds for what you want to do in Wuthering Waves. I would love to hear your ideas down in the comments below. Once again, Wuthering Waves is launching on May 22nd. It is an open world action RPG and I absolutely cannot wait to play it with every single one of you. I hope everyone has a beautiful day. Take care.